You need the private people to in a big way in education, in health, in technology, in development, even in smart cities, in providing other facilities and all. The government has to take the role of a regulator so that there is no exploitation. And also should take care of the facilitator to the weaker section of the people with regard to their housing, with regard to their other requirements that are required. This is what the government intended to do. We need to create a balance. We are not disturbed by the criticism some people are making comments. Some people make immature comments also. ये वो सूट बूट सरकार है तो क्या है मुझे सूट बूट है तो क्या है what is suit boot? I am not able to understand today. This is now I have been working other because I am Minister of Parliament Affairs. Whatever is said by others, I try to thoroughly study and then understand. I have not understood so far. I have not understood. The first Prime Minister of India used to have a suit, boot and also hat. Even the dafedar, jemedar outside the hotels and office also were wearing suit, boot also. We must be careful. We must show our maturity because after 68 years of independence, the debate and the discussion has to be on larger issues, on developmental issues, not on small, tiny issues. I was suggesting about, Madhavji was talking about the media also. The media also has to play an important role in highlighting larger issues, new ideas, rather than focusing more on small, cheap comments or irresponsible statements made by somebody here and there and highlighting them as if the entire country is like that and all. I don't agree with that. Parliament also, you are seeing, Parliament also is functioning well for a change. In Parliament, what can you do? In Parliament, you can talk out or walk out. No breakout. If you have frequent breakout, then it will be all out. We have to show to the world. We have to show to the world that we are a mature democracy. People's participation. In Parliament also is people's participation. Assembly also is people's participation. Panchayat also is people's participation. At the same time, people also can organize themselves and demand from this Parliament has passed 47 legislations, record of its kind. In 1 year, 47 legislations were passed by the. So if you work, you can work well. I gave you 2 examples. Parliament working and passing 47 bills. Bank officers, employees working and then covering 15 crore people in a short period. Even the Jana Suraksha Yojana, Janasri Bhima Yojana, they were launched only some 20 days back. I'm told already nearly 8 crore people have enrolled themselves. So we have the positives also. There are certain darker issues, but at the same time there are some brighter issues. We have to focus more on brighter issues. Media also should focus more on development, more on constructive, rather than sensational or mindless comment made by somebody here and there and then make it a big issue. Today's discussion is only this, on that should not confine. Development has to be the core of the media, of the political class, as well as public, because country needs development. We are seeing what is happening around the globe. There is a hunger for development among the people. Every section wants development. They want to progress, and Indians want to compete with the entire world. And now world is recognizing India also. Once upon a time, those days, India used to be called as Visva Guru. Naranda, Takshashila, those examples people quote, and then Pahyan, Yuan Song, they came and then they wrote about India, its civilization, all these great values. And just now I was seeing that science and technology during our ancient times. I was just reading that book. It is very thought-provoking. Now, when our Prime Minister went around, 18 countries he covered in 45 days. He went around, and then you have seen the amount of interest in India. India is rising. India is resurgent. That's why wherever he has gone, Modi. Here in India, you can organize the people. In America, you can't. They are not free. They are not free. And surprisingly, when he went to even China also, thousands of people lining on both sides and saying, Modi. It's urge for development. They see a symbol of India rising. Prime Minister Modi is not an individual. He is the Prime Minister of the country, and people see him as they have aspirations. Of course, in our country, our biggest challenge today is expectations are very high. रातों रात कुछ होना चाहिए ऐसा. तो किसी के पास अलाउद्दीन अद्भुत दीप नहीं है ऐसा करने के लिए. It requires It requires time, it requires energy, it requires commitment, it requires honesty, it requires transparency. So let us all join together in that. And as I told you, friends, I once again compliment Vijnana Bharati for taking this initiative. Uh, I became rich after I came here because of the enlightened speeches made by the panel of speakers before me, and I'll be looking forward to receive the other recommendations of the two-day conference also. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir, for that brilliant address sprinkled with so much humor and also very serious messages of skill, scale, and speed, which we will always remember while building the smart cities. With these words, may I now request Professor Dr. Suhas Pednekar to please propose the vote of thanks.
Well, I'm once again here for the pleasant task of proposing vote of thanks. Our Honorable Minister Naiduji, Padma Bhushan Ram Doraiji, and Dr. Madhavji Chitreji. With their presentation, they enlighten us with the provoking thoughts. And I'm sure the next 2 days' deliberations going to be very meaningful to every one of you. And when you go back home, you'll certainly take something from here. And I'm sure with what we can get from the speakers today is that change should start from us. So thank you very, very much, Minister. And in fact, he has come all the way from Hyderabad only for this function to Mumbai, and he has to go back early. So thank you so much for spending your very valuable time with us. And thank you so much, everyone, that you're going to give more time for the next deliberations. And thank you all, audience. Thank you.
We are starting the first session, and I would request Sri Ajit Gulabchand to come on dais. I would also request Dr. Rajiv Lal to come on dais. Professor Kriti Ramritan and Professor Rangan Banerjee. Friends, this is the first session of technical session of the conference, and the session is on physical infrastructure. We have invited Mr. Professor K.V. Rao, Krishna Rao, from HOD from Department of Civil Engineering, but due to some personal engagements, he could not attend this session. So we are starting with the dignitaries who are on the dais. I would request the chairman of the session, Sri Ajit Gulabchand, to start this session. Thank you. So, 1 minute. I would also request, before we start the session, I would request Avinash Rairikar to come on dais and present the gift of token and felicitate Sri Ajit Gulabchand. A round of applause, please. I would request Sri Ajit Gulabchand to felicitate Dr. Rajiv Lal. Please put your hands together. Request Sri Ajit Gulabchand to felicitate Sri Kriti Ramritan. Also Professor Rangan Banerjee. I would request Ajit Gulabchand to start this session with his first speech. Thank you.
Hello. It is always an opportune moment to discuss cities and the future of cities. But this is particularly opportune in India because of two reasons. One, because we have neglected the cities for many, many years. And we made village the center of our conversation and considered cities as something, a kind of a necessary evil that exists and we must live with. And the votes also came from the rural areas, so the cities always got a short shrift and nobody really bothered about it. Second is because with the huge migration that is in the offing, it's actually happening as we speak, of almost 400 million or 40 crore people that would be migrating to the cities in the next 20 to 30 years. So this figure can vary with different studies, but they are in the same ballpark figure of huge numbers. A kind of migration that took 1,000 years to happen in the United States, in Europe. So we are really looking and staring in the face of huge migration that is taking place. A neglect of many years. And in the addition, we are the youngest country in the world with almost 300 million people, which will come to seek jobs over the next 20 years. These are children that are born and will be 21 in the next 20 years. I'm not talking of 22 years, just 20. So you are talking about 15 million or 1.5 crore people become evenly every year seeking jobs. So jobs for those migrating from rural, jobs for the new kids that will come into the job market because, and with the considerable neglect, the challenge before us to define the urbanization that we need, the kind of urbanization that we need is becoming a really hot topic, and many conferences are being held. Yet, this is a very special one in terms of trying to define what's a smart city. And I think the Prime Minister, when he had the idea of smart city in mind, he thought we will leapfrog our urban deficit of development by creating something with a purpose and call it smart because it would then involve modern technologies along with greater definitions of services for the citizen in order to create a modern city. This particular panel is going to focus on the infrastructure aspect of the city. But one must not forget that when we use the word smart, it has to be everything. A smart economy, a smart infrastructure, a smart citizen, a smart information services that will put a smart transport, a whole host of smart things have to happen for any individual smart infrastructure or a smart anything to work. And in this context, setting this tone for our discussion, focusing substantially on infrastructure with its linkages to all these other aspects. After all, a city without museums, without art centers, without libraries is not a complete city. It has to be a place where people like to live, enjoy living, and are very well educated and develop culture. After all, the word civilization comes from civic, which is city. So the whole idea, the state of civilization of a country is determined by the state of its cities. And so when we look at this all, what is the kind of infrastructure we need? What would you call a smart infrastructure that fits into the smart city? And what are its linkages to the other attributes of the city that this infrastructure must also have in order to be sustainable and continuously deliver faster, better, and cheaper services to its citizens. So with this, initiating the kind of dialogue we look forward in this panel, and I've asked Dr. Rajiv Lal to give his keynote address on this subject.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a real pleasure to be here. I would like maybe to kick off my remarks from where you left off in your introduction, um, and share some thoughts with you on the history of urbanization, very brief history of urbanization and the political economy of urbanization, because that sets the context for how we must mobilize support to actually execute on the agenda of smart cities. So, as Mr. Gulabchand was saying, we have had a particular challenge in our own narrative post-independence, even going back to pre-independence, about the importance culturally, psychologically, economically of cities in the context of our country. And this narrative was, I suppose, rooted in many ways in the vocabulary of the independence movement, which relied very much on the notion of indigenization